Penn turned to Gareth.
What do you think? Dirt or the nebula?
That's a hard one, Penn, but I think I'll have to go with the latter. Just this once.
The man shook his fist in the air.
Excellent. This away then, friends.
His fist turned to a sweeping hand, and he moved off in the direction he'd originally appeared from. The two followed, though Gareth kept quite close to his companion and watched the shadows vigilantly. The man quickly led them onto a well-trodden dirt path.
Good that things turned out the way they did.
The man began as he walked.
A day longer and y'all'd have missed the festival. Then again, we might have pushed it back. Wouldn't have felt right to celebrate when people are missing their people. Still, you're found, just in time to enjoy the harvest.
Harvest?
Yup, we're self-sufficient out here. Not really, to be honest. Plenty of technology, plenty of help from the cities, and we're not isolated, but we try to keep to ourselves. Town is mostly people who enjoy a quieter life. Oh, I suppose I never introduced myself. Cassius. I hunt for the town mostly, tend a little garden, keep Riley company. Riley is that old wolf.
You keep that wolf company?
Gareth asked.
Well, she ain't domesticated, but she split from her pack a couple years back and keeps to the area near town.
Why'd it split from its pack?
Too old. Wolves will reach an age where their experience doesn't outweigh their slowing bodies. At that point, they take it upon themselves to wander off, not burden their kids. She'd have starved by now, but, well, I can't help but leave some bits and pieces for her. Feel bad, I guess.
A small smile came to his face.
She loves fish.
That's kind of you.
In some ways it is. In some ways it isn't. Sometimes I think I'm only prolonging her suffering, but I suppose if she were really ready, she'd stop taking what I leave around, so maybe not. I can't not anyway, so not much point in waffling about it.
Suppose Riley knows her business better than you.
Gareth offered. The man laughed.
Exactly.
A few minutes of silence passed, broken when Cassius announced their arrival.
Here we are.
True to his claim, the walk took only 20 minutes or so before they could see the lights of a town down the way. Penn almost lamented their decision to rest when they did. If she'd pressed on even another minute or so, they would have found the path on their own. From there, she would have insisted they continue, and poor Gareth never would have had to come face to face with that wolf.
You know, if it weren't for the dense tree cover, we might have seen the light from where we set camp.
Penn said aloud.
Most likely.
Cassius responded. Pine and bark abruptly opened to a sight Penelope didn't quite expect. It wasn't a town of metal and clean macro-printed construction. Instead, hand-built log houses lined dirt and cobble roadways. Yet perfectly fused with the old was modern technology. The town clearly had power, and any amenities that couldn't be accomplished by older means were not lost in any capacity. It created an interesting but not discordant aesthetic. Hovering vehicles traveled down streets lit by standing torches. Wooden houses were lit from the inside by electric lights and boasted solar panels on their thatched roofs. Penn also noticed that there were no farms, despite Cassius mentioning a harvest. What at first glance looked like nothing more than untended verdant growth was actually quite the opposite as she looked closer. The trio walked through the town, and instead of cordoned fields with rows of crops, it seemed like every inch of unused ground was sprouting with some kind of food-producing plant. There were plots dotted through and around the town dedicated to this. Seemingly rampant overgrowth was actually well-thought-out edible plant guilds. Gareth watched as a woman passing them on the street stopped to pick what he was fairly certain humans called a peach and bit right into it as she walked off. The town was quite abuzz at the moment. People were jogging here and there, setting up streamers and unloading boxes. As the three came to the center of town, they saw a number of people setting up massive oak tables in a circle around a large tree. From a bird's eye view, the town center might look like a sun with the tree as its center and the streets, and now tables, as rays.
Oh, she's coming along. And now your people have reason to celebrate too. Speaking of your people, should be this. Pen, Gareth!
A squeaky voice yelled out. Penn couldn't see its source immediately, not amongst the moving people. Soon enough, though, scampering out from behind a stack of boxes and rushing towards them was a little gray-furred creature with his telltale puffy tail.
I'm so glad you're okay. Oh my, oh my, oh my.
Thwill was talking so fast that Penn only knew what he was saying by the tone of his voice.
Yay, we're okay. You jumped out the back of the ship. Everyone is going to be so very happy. How could you do that? You're not injured, are you?
Thwill gave Gareth a look over and then jumped up onto Penn and began inspecting her closely.
Surprisingly uninjured, though my stress has been quite high, it's probably even starting to show. Nothing that a few days of relaxation won't cure.
Penn looked him over and noticed a general pallor to his shell. Once vibrant teals and oranges seemed to have been leached away.
Some well-earned relaxation, that's for sure.
Penn said with a soft hand on his back. Thwill sniffed Penn closely and scrunched his nose and held his head away from her.
Rest and some baths. No offense, Penn, but you stink.
She laughed at the little chinchilla-like creature's blunt comment.
I'm sure I do. I'd kill for a shower.
The man had stepped aside to help another straighten out a bench, but turned back.
I can take you to the town hall. It's where we were headed before we met the furry fella. The captain should be there with the mayor. After that, I think we can get y'all cleaned up. Yes, Deg and the others don't know yet. We've got to tell them.
Thwill scampered off towards the tree, stopped and turned back to wave them on, and then continued on past the tree. Penn thought he looked a bit like a particularly puffy meerkat in that moment. The man chuckled, shrugged, and walked onward.
Well, the fluffy little fella is going the right way.
Penn and Gareth looked at each other and followed suit. They both marveled at the large tree as they passed by. It stood like a thick-trunked oak, but its green leaves were speckled pink all through its boughs. A short jaunt and a couple of turns took them to a larger building, not hand-built like most, but machine-printed and clearly for a communal purpose. Penn and Gareth noticed Deeg first, given that he stood apart from all the humans around him. He paced near a human woman. Small as she was, it was clear she was in charge as she was acting as a locus of activity. At any given second, she was directing one group or another. Deeg was clearly not really there, lost to his own thoughts.
Deg! They're okay.
His eyes shot to Thwill and then immediately up to Penn and Gareth. He lit up and jogged over to them.
Penn, Gareth, I'm so happy to see you. Of course, I had complete faith. That said, it takes the weight from me to see you safe. You aren't injured, right?
He looked over Gareth and noted the stress shell, then turned to Penn. Not quite knowing what to look for, he looked for her to signal one way or the other. She shot him a thumbs up and a wink. He knew what a thumbs up was by now and nodded in relief. The woman found herself in a lull of people needing her attention and took the chance to walk over. She stood shorter than Cassius, and certainly shorter than Penn, but had an air of authority about her. Cassius certainly seemed to shrink under her gaze. Penn noticed he actually didn't seem to even want to meet her eyes. It was to such a degree that he was legitimately using Penn as cover from the woman. She reached her hand out to Gareth and then Penn and shook them both. Bronzy tanned skin, darker than Penn's, grasped them. She had some age to her. Her wrinkled face was weather-worn, but she smiled kindly. Her grip was soft and warm.
Maya, pleasure. Gonna go out on a limb and guess you are Gareth and you are Penn.
She looked up at Penn and raised her eyebrows.
Sheesh. Well, we've got places where you can get cleaned up and a change of clothes for you, Penn. I'd offer a change of clothes for you, Gareth, but I don't think we carry your size or number of armholes for that matter.
Her tanned face gained even more wrinkles than normal as she looked the alien over. All she could imagine was what he might look like in a sweater. Adorable, in an ugly way.
I appreciate the thought.
I suppose I should also ask. A big basin of water? Soap? Do you need?
Water will do fine. I'll pass on the soap, though. Anything else I can get from the ship, which is not in a heap of rubble?
Gareth looked over to Deg.
The nebula is in one piece, banged up but fixable. The mayor contacted the city. They're going to tow us to a port for repairs.
Pen caught Deeg's eye and did that thing where she said nothing but looked at him as if she were saying something. It had confused him for quite a while, but he learned it was her conveying meaning with just that one look. It was something a lot of humans did, and though he doubted his ability to recognize the meaning in someone other than Penelope, he was starting to understand what certain looks of hers meant. Currently, she was letting him know they needed to talk about something urgent. He nodded to her but spoke to both her and Gareth.
You get cleaned up, though. I'll let the crew know you're okay. We can rest and get situated. Enjoy a celebration, apparently. We will have time for anything else later.
Pen caught his meaning, glad that he understood her look.
I'm dying for a shower.
She sighed. The woman pointed back past them with an offering hand.
Follow me.